Today we get to hear about the call story of the prophet Jeremiah. Like most prophets, Jeremiah was called into God's service before he thought he was ready. Prophets always find a way to turn down God's work, but God finds a way to get them to sign up. Sometimes, as in the case of King David in Psalm 139 or Isaiah 49, we hear that God knew his servants before they were even born. In verse 5, God tells Jeremiah, "Before you were born, I set you apart. You were special. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." And like most prophets, Moses and Isaiah included, Jeremiah was really reluctant to follow God's call to ministry. Moses was a stutterer. He said, "I can't go in front of Pharaoh. I can't speak right. I'm a stutterer." And he just won't get it. Isaiah said he was too impure to deliver God's message. Yet God got him ready. In Jeremiah, he said he was just too young. Or so they thought, until God got them ready. God prepared them to do what they needed to do. In verse 6, Jeremiah pleads with God, "Don't send me." He says, "I don't know how to speak. I'm too young." Sometimes we don't think we're ready for God's call to ministry. We're either too young, too old, we're undertrained, whatever. We come up with thousands of excuses not to do the work that he asks us to do. But he'll find a way. He always finds a way to get us ready to do his work. That's what we learned from the reading in Jeremiah today. God doesn't call the qualified. He doesn't call people who are ready for the work. He calls people and then gets them ready. But it's still up to us to choose to do his work. God tells Jeremiah in verses 17 and 18, "Get yourself ready." I don't care if you're not ready now. Get yourself ready. Stand up and tell them whatever I command you to. For today I have made you a fortified city. Here's where God's telling Jeremiah, I don't care where you're at right now. I don't care what your skills are right now. I will make you a fortified city. I will get you ready. Remember what God did for Moses in Exodus. He trained Moses 80 years for his work. First 40 years as a prince, and then 40 more years as a shepherd. Most people can't stand being in school for 4 years. Moses got trained for 80 years. And when he got through his training, he was ready for that job. He was the only person that could take the Israelites out of Egypt. Sometimes we get so discouraged and overwhelmed, just like Jeremiah. We have these real human feelings that we don't think we can do the job, that we're just not prepared to do it. In today's reading from Jeremiah, we see a different type of call from God, with the same human reaction of refusal. We're used to seeing God prepare those that he calls. And that's what he does for Jeremiah. But in today's case, he tells Jeremiah, before you're even born, I had you selected for this job. This job is perfect for you, and I will do whatever it takes to get you ready. The Lord said to Jeremiah, "Don't say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to say whatever I command you." That's a tall order for young Jeremiah. Think of the people that we have to talk to sometimes. People who don't want to hear what we have to say. And especially if we're talking about God, they might turn around and walk away from us. They might scream at us. Who knows how they're going to react. But God's telling Jeremiah, I don't care how they're going to react. You're going to go to them. You're going to tell them what I tell you to. And the good news for Jeremiah is that God will be with him wherever he goes. God tells him, "Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you, and I will rescue you." Now, it's that last thing that kind of bothers me, because if you got to be rescued from a situation, that means there's going to be trouble. So God's telling Jeremiah right from the start, don't worry, I'll be there to rescue you when things go bad. So he's almost guaranteeing Jeremiah that things are going to be rough. Things are not going to be easy. But I will be there for you. Just like what he told Ezekiel in Ezekiel chapter 2, verse 6. He told Ezekiel, "And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them or their words. Do not be afraid, though briars and thorns are all around you, and you live among scorpions. Do not be afraid of what they say, or be terrified by them, for they are a rebellious people. Now, doesn't that just sound like the motivating message you want to get? I'm going to send you to a place that's full of thorns and briars. There's scorpions there, and don't worry about those people. Sure, they're a rebellious lot, but I'll be there for you. I'll be there to rescue you. Where we won't go, or the things we won't do for the love of God, when we answer that call, and we go to those places full of briars and scorpions and rebellious people, and He gets us ready for that. No matter where He's going to send us, He's going to prepare us. Remember, God qualifies all the people He calls. He never sends you out to a job without the training to get it done. In verse 10, God gives Jeremiah many different skills, and not only to destroy and overthrow, but to build up too. God doesn't just want Jeremiah to wipe out where he's going. He wants him to rebuild. Rebuild for God. Because each one of us has a different gift to use for God and His people. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, God tells us that there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit hands them out. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord they work for. There's different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, the same God is at work. What we're hearing is that everybody has different skills, everyone has different gifts to use for God. And God's there with us. Now, each one of us, we're told, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. All those different skills we have, all those different gifts we have, when we use them, they come together for the common good. They come together to build God's church if we use those skills. The bad thing is, if we don't use those skills, that job goes undone. A good example of this is our confirmation students. We've got 3 confirmation students this year. And back in October, we took a spiritual gifts test. So they know what their spiritual gifts are. And we're going to talk about that today. Because I've got to translate them, because the spiritual gifts, the results came out in forms of body parts. We're talking about teenagers, so body parts we understand. Spiritual gifts, not so much. But today we're going to go over what those body parts mean. So in one of our confirmands, she has the gift of hands, heart, eyes, and feet. She sounds like a pretty complete package to do God's work. Another one of our confirmands has the gift of voice and stomach. Now this makes sense to us because whenever we have any food left over, we just shove it that way and his stomach takes care of it. So that's another good gift to have. And our third confirmand, he has the gift of ears. So he hears what's going on. He has the gift of a brain so he can analyze things. And he also has the gift of eyes. So our 3 confirmands, they sound like a pretty complete package, right? If they all use their gifts. What if they don't use their gifts? What if the voice and stomach decides not to show up that day? The other 2 are going to starve. And they won't even be able to ask for food. They're just going to starve. Lucky for us as a church, our 3 confirmands are also required to take the basic lay servant course. So that's going to teach them to take the skills they have and train them to be lay servants, to lead this church forward to the future. And I'm really glad because these 3 kids, they're like the 6 we had before in the class before. Very talented people when they do the work that God asks them to. But unfortunately for our confirmands and also our church, there's one body part that none of our 3 confirmands have. That's the kidney. Now we think the kidney, no big deal. It's just one of the guts down there. What do we need a kidney for? We got hands, we got feet, we got eyes, we got brains, we got a stomach. What happens if your body's missing a kidney? You die. What happens if your body's kidney doesn't work so well?
what happens? You go on dialysis. And for our nurses in the crowd, what happens when you're on dialysis? Does dialysis cure that bad kidney? Does it fix that kidney so you're able to function like a human being and go out and charge and get your work done? No. You know what dialysis does? It prolongs the period until you die. My dad was on dialysis for 2 years. And he had 2 forms of living while he was on dialysis. Sick and on the dialysis machine. That's what you get when your kidneys don't work. So my prayer for our church is that somebody here, a current member, has a kidney. Otherwise, this church is going to die. If our church member, who's the kidney, doesn't come and help our 3 confirmands lead this church forward, this church is going to go on dialysis. And it'll function for another couple of years, and then it'll die. We all have to use the skills that God gave us to move His church forward. Otherwise, His church doesn't move forward. Another thing that Westby United Methodist Church did, which was a very brave move, back in October, we were at a committee meeting and we said, well, you know what, this church is kind of aging out. Our youngest couple's in their 50s, mid-50s. So we need to figure out, what kind of church do we want to be? What kind of church can we do? What kind of outreach can we do to reach out to those people who aren't in this church so we can tell them the message of Jesus Christ and that He can save them? And we came up with a nice list of things to do. And it's a page, almost a page and a quarter. No, actually, just over a page. And we said to people, we said, okay, take this list of great things to do, and to make sure that we know that you're bought in, we want you to put your name next to it. Pick 3. And we did that. We let it hang out there for a couple months, and I think by December we said, okay, we're going to tabulate them all. And out of the people that come to Westby United Methodist Church, we had 10 people sign up to do things. Now, the bad news is, out of those 10, if only 10 filling out the form wasn't bad enough, 4 of those 10 are current leaders on the board. These people do a lot for the church. They've always done a lot for the church. And when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you get burned out. The next thing, so that means there's 6 forms left. 3 of those other forms were filled out by our confirmands. Pat's looking disappointed. So that means 3 other people filled out these sheets. So we made more copies of these sheets. They're out in back by the bulletin. So I'd like you to take a sheet. I'd like you to pray over this sheet. Before you even check one off, before you even put your name down here, I'd like you to pray over this sheet and say, what is God calling me to do? What is God asking me to do for His church? Because remember in Jeremiah 17, He said, get yourself ready. He doesn't say think about it. He said, get yourself ready. You can do that by taking the lay servant course on February 10th. 10th and 17th, only 2 days. To get you ready to say, here's what leaders in the Methodist Church do. Here's how we can serve God. Here's how I can use the gifts that God gave me for Him. Because if one of you kidneys out there doesn't help out, our confirmation kids can't get the job done. And this church dies. We've got nothing to fear because God tells us He will fortify us. He will make us a fortified city if we do His work, if we follow His leading. He told Isaiah, and here's what Isaiah said. He said, because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I have set my face like flint. I got tough, He says. And I know I will not be put to shame. Isaiah had the confidence to do God's work because of the training that God put him through. Amen.
Amen.